All right, so we're gonna get started. Try to keep things on schedule. It's fine if people just come in while we're talking. Uh, can't hear me? So, my name is Michael Alley. I'm Assistant Director with the State Construction Office. I oversee the construction management and FCAP groups. Today, we're gonna talk about prefabricated building components and how they can best be integrated into public construction projects. Before I get started, I wanted to talk briefly about why I wanted to give this presentation and why it should be important to you. And these glasses are kind of messing with me here, but so I see a lot of construction contracts. I saw nearly 250 last year. One thing I can say is that the cost of construction today is more than it was yesterday. No surprise, it's only going to get worse. What's alarming is that it seems to be accelerating, or the cost seems to be increasing at an accelerated rate. The market is driving a lot of that, and there's not really much we can do about it. But I do think that we can impact cost efficiently by executing our projects efficiently. Or put another way, our productivity can affect a project's cost and schedule. So increasing productivity is something that the construction industry has struggled with for years. It's something that we're going to need to do better in the future. So according to McKinsey and Company, worldwide construction spending is supposed to approach $22 trillion by 2040. That's an increase of about 40% compared to today. For the US, this means that the construction industry will need to achieve a compounded annual growth rate of about 2.7% over the next 20 years. The problem is our industry's growth rate for the last 20 years was only 1.3%. So to me, this means we have a future labor force problem. This problem becomes even more pronounced when you acknowledge that we already have a depleted workforce. So our current designers and contractors are already struggling to deliver the current pipeline of projects efficiently. This is largely due to staffing deficiencies and a tight labor market, which is impacting critical roles such as project managers, contractors, engineers, and trade workers. Now, this problem isn't limited to our industry. Unfortunately, it's kind of across the board. You saw Mr. Simonson this morning say, manufacturing, agriculture, telecom, mining, and a lot of others are all experiencing similar challenges. Giving our aging workforce and the appeal of other sectors to the upcoming workforce, things probably aren't going to improve for us. So the construction industry has touted new software and technology for decades, which you would think should help. Surprisingly, despite these tools, construction productivity has improved by only about 10% between 2000 and 2022. Compare this to 50% improvement in productivity economy-wide and a shocking 90% productivity improvement in the manufacturing sector. So it appears that the construction industry has a problem with productivity. Today, we're going to talk about how prefabrication can better construction schedules, increase quality, and address labor shortages. All of this could reduce a project's bottom line if it's implemented correctly. So today's speaker will be Connor Bailey. He's with DPR Construction. DPR Construction is a forward-thinking general contractor specializing in technically complex and sustainable projects across various state construction markets, including healthcare and higher education. With over 3 decades of experience, DPR is a leader in integrating innovative solutions like prefabrication and virtual design to deliver predictable, high-quality outcomes. They've served as construction manager on several sizable SEO projects, including a $119 million plant sciences building at NC State, the nursing and instructional building at UNC Greensboro, and the Kidd Brewer Stadium end zone facility at Appalachian State University. Connor Bailey is DPR's prefabrication leader for the Southeast, whose primary role is to help DPR integrate their prefabrication strategy into their projects. Today, Connor is going to talk to us about how prefabricated components can best be integrated into public construction projects and specifically state construction.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the introduction and appreciate you inviting me here to come present on this topic. Also, thanks to the State Construction Office, Cameron Smith, among others that have also invited me to be here. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about it because I see the ability that it gives us in the future of construction. And, you know, whether it be what Michael just talked about or what Simon talked about this morning, I mean, Kenneth Simonson talked about this morning in the economic discussion. Like we have a lot of work ahead of us and a lot of requirements, and it's going to put a stressful environment on us if we don't innovate and find ways to deliver these projects that are different than the norm. So let's see here. The agenda today, what we're going to talk about really is the problem statement with our industry. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that, talk about what prefab is and how it can help us fix this problem that we're coming across. Talk about how we can utilize prefabrication within state construction. And also I'm going to go over a example project with how we can integrate prefab within state construction. So the problem statement, we've already hit on it several times. It's been echoed across the whole day, really. Like the value of construction projects as we require today is more than yesterday, which requires more labor hours, which requires more laborers, right? And we have a shortage already. We talked about several things that's causing more of a shortage. There was even a discussion about ice earlier. Like there's several variables that are just causing us not to have all the labor we need to build what we're forecasting, right? There's also compressed schedules. I mean, everybody has a phone in their pocket, right? And that phone provides instant access to everything. So we are all trained now to want everything quick, fast, immediately, right? And if we don't have it, it's like the dial-up days. We would drive ourselves insane looking at a dial-up computer trying to get access to your drawings, whatever it is, right? It's no different with our construction projects. We want to build them fast. We want to deliver them quick. We want to give access to the universities, to the hospitals for our needs. And so we have to find innovative ways to do that, right? Cost uncertainty is something that is just a painful conversation for all of us. RFIs create change orders. Rework creates change orders. Bad labor creates change orders. Unsafe environments creates cost overruns. There's just nonstop in a traditional construction project. There's this inconsistency of our cost, and it's creating a stressful environment for everyone. So how do we maintain that? How do we create certainty with it, right? Traditional construction just isn't keeping up. We're starting to see a massive shift in the industry with people who are interested in prefab, and there's reasons why. I wanted to share this chart, which is very similar to what Michael was just talking about and what Kenneth was talking about this morning. Last year alone, we had $2.16 trillion of construction work in the United States, which required 8.3 million labor hours or million laborers. And the crazy thing about that is the year before, it was 500,000 short of that. So we needed 500,000 new laborers to fill that void. And that's an exponential number that keeps coming up. Michael just talked about how big it's forecasted 2 decades from now. It's not going to stop. And the labor is one thing that we're running into an issue of. 1 in 4 construction workers in our industry is over the age of 55. I'll tell you what, these are the people that with all the skills, with all the knowledge, who are really driving that quality, that install, the field verification, all of that work that we're doing. And they're retiring out, unfortunately. And the new generation doesn't all want to go to the trades. They're not interested in being laborers. They want to go work in tech. They want to be entrepreneurs. It's just, we're not seeing as many being pulled into the labor pools as we used to. So benefits of prefab, one thing that it really allows us is to optimize the labor. It's probably one of my favorite things that comes with it is we're able to pull labor off a job site. We're able to build things more efficiently with lean manufacturing methodologies in a warehouse offsite, which also means that we're cutting waste out of the fabrication, which means we're cutting labor off of the project entirely from a cost perspective. It may take 1,000 labor hours to do one thing on site. It may take 800 labor hours to do it off site because of efficiencies of just manufacturing mindset, how we do it in an off-site facility. Speed to market. You can start on an activity prior to when you would if it was traditionally. Now you can start building a prefabricated element while you're doing site work, well before you would have been allowed to start it with traditional. So you're able to install it much faster, start on it ahead of time, and cut off schedule date durations, right? So we're able to deliver quicker, speed to market, which helps us build revenue on the back end. Cost control, I talked about it earlier, but when you're building in that lean manufacturing environment, you're able to put an emphasis on quality checks, and you're building it with the same people over and over and over again. You're getting a good quality of product. And we also are delivering it with the VDC model, the BIM model. So we're able to exactly know how we're going to install it. And it just helps create cost certainty, right? Now, the cost part is really something I'm going to emphasize on later. Is there's a way that we need to change our mindset for how we bring prefab into a project to eliminate waste in the cost effort. I'll hit on that a little bit, but risk reduction, traditional construction, you could have 10, or actually there was a bathroom pod that we did recently that had 17 trades in that bathroom. We prefabricated it with SurePods offsite down in Orlando, and we got a great result out of it. Now think about those 17 trades on site in 1,000 bathrooms, the trade stacking, and all it takes is one of them to get off schedule and it pushes everybody else. There's just this risk that can just compound on a normal construction project, right? And really that risk could create bad productivity. Mike was just talking about it, but if you're able to pull that off and install that bathroom in one activity, think about how the productivity flow on that project is enhanced across the entire project. I mean, and then compound that to several different prefab products on that project, and you're relieving a large stressor on that project, which that large stressor can cause all kinds of chaotic moments, like everybody working till 9 p.m. and weekends. You can relieve that with a new strategy. The happy workers part, I just hit on it, right? It's my favorite part about this, the least talked about. A hard thing to talk about is construction industry has a really bad suicide rate. It's because this industry is so hard on the laborers, on the workers, and these really hard projects that might just not be set up well. I built the same project a couple years ago, built 2 identical projects over 3 years. The first one we built, traditional install. It was really painful. While we were building that, we were planning the next one, identical project. We said, you know what, we're going to put prefab all over that thing. And we did it. And then I came back later on. I wasn't on the second one. I helped plan it, but I wasn't in boots on the ground like I was on the first one. I came at like 5 p.m. one day. Office was empty. I asked them about if they were working on the weekends. No, only unless they wanted to get ahead. But the project was just that much better. And everybody was so happy. And they were like, man, this is an easy job. And we were all kind of laughing at ourselves, being like, it is now, because we planned it that way. It's all about proper planning. And it's all of our responsibility to make sure the guys in the field and those project engineers who are working so hard on the jobs to have an easy life and to enjoy this industry and want to stay in this industry. So what is prefabrication? Didn't truly define it on the slide, but it's offsite fabrication, pulling it in advance, building it offsite, delivering it as a product. In the common sense, when I try to explain what I do to people I grow up with, I say, you know, cabinets, how they come, it's built offsite and you just put it in. But really the thing I want to emphasize with you all is prefab is not just a product. A lot of people will say, oh, you do exterior panels. And I'm like, yeah, and a lot more, right? It's a strategy. Prefab is a strategy. That's the mindset that our industry needs to shift to. Every project has a prefab strategy that's different than the other one. And not all prefab ideas are good ideas for a job. You need to look at the benefit that comes with that idea and if it's beneficial to the outcome of the project and the owner. I'm going to go over a couple of different forms of prefab and different levels of prefab in the next few slides. So 2 forms of prefab that I like to break down. There's means and methods prefab, which is really just, it doesn't need to be integrated in the design. You can give me a set of CD documents and a lot of our trade partners are just going to do it. That's what they do. They're the ones that are getting ahead or finding a way to just do means and methods prefab. underground piping, they might solder a couple joints and put that pipe all in one set, electricians, they're fantastic with this. So I've got single trade MEP, pre-assembled doors. We're starting to see doors come with the hinges on them, electrically tested and just set. Parapet wall panels, drywall contractors are just finding the best ways to prefabricate. It's fun to watch. And underground electrical duct banks is more of an extreme one, but these are things that really, you don't necessarily have to set it up in the design, but the other side of it is design integrated prefab. Now that's the one that we need to plan for. And it's our responsibility to make sure we're setting the jobs up so that this can happen. Now, really, there's every product on every project has a different level of design integration. And it's up to us to make sure we're having a conversation at pre-design would be the most ideal time frame to say, what's the prefab strategy for this job? Okay, we're going to do bathroom pods and exterior panels. Okay, well, both of those need to be conversations that we need to have during SD development to make sure that we're accounting for certain details that need to be in the design, in the drawing, so they can be priced accordingly so that we can get the estimate built right to build it right. That estimate part is big. I'm kind of alluded to it earlier, but if we price a job for traditional install and then say we want to do bathroom pods and come in after the fact and say, okay, reprice it for bathroom pods, bring credits back to us. You're never going to get dollar for dollar on those credits, and it's going to make it look like bathroom pods are more expensive. But if you price it right from the get-go and that you have a strategy meeting in the very beginning that says we're going to do bathroom pods, or at least we want to properly evaluate it, then you can say, you can circle those bathrooms and say, to be priced modular, provide an ad alternate for traditional install. And then you get dollar to dollar comparison right there. And then prefab is so much easier to pull into the job. That credit scenario, 9 times out of 10 runs into an added cost to the job that's not necessary, which is waste that can be eliminated up front. And a lot of times you're just not going to do it because we didn't set it up. We didn't plan it properly. Emphasis on that prefab kickoff discussion and pre-design. So panels, everybody is familiar with panels. Exterior panels is a big topic that we see on a lot of projects. Interior wall panels is also a great one that I see a lot of great opportunity with. Some are design integrated and, determining what type of wall they're in CDs. Some are just means and methods for drywall contractors, like the parapet walls I talked about earlier. Roof panel is also a great product. Remember, it's a strategy. It's not all or nothing. I've seen a lot of great exteriors that weren't fully panelized, but we still found a way to, the really complicated parts, we had to do a traditional install. We found a way to panelize sections that had the ability to be panelized. Every job is different and every job has a different strategy. Modular, we're all the way from a modular electric room to a modular building. Now, we're not going to do modular buildings with SEO, but we are definitely have the opportunity for bathroom pods, for modular electric rooms, for operating ceilings. There's a lot of great modular opportunity. This is probably one of the biggest design integrated pieces because a lot of times these are going to be vendor provided. So having that vendor's input, the earlier the better, because they're the ones actually building it. MEP prefab, we talked about a little the means and methods stuff. There's more detailed stuff like multi-trade rack, or the modular electric room is kind of a hybrid of this and the modular, right? Electrical wall assemblies, head walls, foot walls, plumbing walls, equipment skids. Single trade, it's the least talked about, and it's one of, in my mind, the most exciting, because when I see a trade partner that's just doing it, it gets me excited because they're innovative and they're getting ahead of everyone else. Trade partners in the crowd, I hope you guys are finding a way to find opportunity in single trade prefab, because it really is a distinguisher within the crowd. So we talked a lot about what prefab is, but we didn't talk about how to integrate it. Like, how do we do this? It's our responsibility. What does that mean, right? And I've emphasized that it needs to be integrated early in the design. But And I've also emphasized the prefab strategy kickoff meeting. We have different delivery types, different contracts, which have different integration strategies for prefab, right? A design build is different than a design bid build. There's just a different strategy that goes with it all together. Design bid build is, it's the least likely or least friendly to prefabrication. And it's because you're designing the entire project before you're bringing the contractor on board or whoever's going to build it. And me as a builder, I've seen way too many times that we get drawings and we're like, man, we got to submit a bunch of RFIs. I can't build this. Those are going to result in change orders. And especially from the prefab mindset, it's like, well, we can't do this, this, and this, but maybe we can do like some means and methods stuff. And we create a strategy for that. When you just leave so much opportunity off the table because you don't have that meeting. But it doesn't take a contractor or a trade partner to be the one to integrate that. It can still happen. But in design bid build, it's up to the owner and design team to make sure they're talking about the prefab opportunity for the job and they're integrating that into the design. And really the ideal scenario from my perspective would be that prefab expectations were outlined in the RFQ for designers. And once the design's complete, you clearly specify prefab elements in the bid documents for the builders. And so you're building the expectation into that contract and you're building it into the design and helps it flow better onto the project instead of that conversation saying, well, we'll get it on the next one. Construction manager at risk, much more friendly for prefabrication. Now, instead of it just being the owner and the designer who have the responsibility for getting prefab onto a job, now you bring in the construction manager. You're bringing in the builder, like I said. You're bringing in somebody who can really help talk about, well, this is how we plan to build it, right? The path for execution in my mind is revising the construction manager at risk RFP and RFQ language to encourage prefabrication. Also, mandate prefab feasibility analysis for the actual pre-construction phase. And what I mean by that is validate that the prefab makes sense. I hear so many times from people when I'm talking to teams about, hey, we should do this, this, and this. Look, we're not going to prefab just to prefab. I'm like, I'm not asking you prefab just to prefab. We're gonna build an A3 document. We're gonna make a prefab feasibility analysis. We're gonna provide an estimate for the prefab versus the traditional. We're gonna look at how many labor hours are pulled off the job from traditional versus prefab. And we're gonna compare the schedules and see really how much we're saving. And you know what? If this is a sustainability driven project, we'll do a sustainability review too. You look at the strategy for that product and you say, what do we need to analyze? And then you look at that overall analysis and you say, okay, bathroom pods make sense for this job. Let's move forward. Or no, you know what? Electric rooms, there's too much of a premium. It's not really hitting critical path and we're not seeing too much strain for electrical labor right now. It tells you what to do. So with construction manager at risk and with design build, prefab feasibility studies is such an important tool that you can utilize to make sure that you're building the right plan and you're not just prefabbing just a prefab. Design build, very similar to construction manager at risk from a prefab integration perspective, right? Except you're adding in the trade partners, the potential manufacturers to the conversation. I don't know if anyone is here from EAS, but that's the company that comes to mind that I've worked with in North Carolina a good bit, who would be excellent to be in those conversations because they do a lot of modular MEP stuff that would really just help if they were a part of pre-design conversations, or if possible, really SDs. Same expectations for how to get it in the project, requiring proposals to include prefab opportunities, include prefab in the state RFQs, encourage modular where possible, right? And then prefab feasibility analysis. This is the most ideal for prefab integration. And the reason all stands behind one word: collaboration. Bringing the builders in, bringing the subject matter experts in, the trade partners, subcontractors. These are the teams that are going to build it. And if you get their input on that design, it's just going to flow so much better. So right here, I have basically the what, the who, and the how all sitting there right around pre-design and SDs. And that's where the value is, because we get the whole team and plan assembled together before we really dive into the documents and the design. And then the realization factor comes so much quicker because of that. So I want to talk a little bit about VDC, because a prerequisite for me when it comes to can prefab be done on a job is are we modeling it? And if so, then absolutely. And preferably the model would go to LOD 450, the level of design 450, which is really, are we modeling all the parts and pieces that we're going to be building? And the reason being, if you are prefabbing something off-site, you're building it to an exact dimension, your expectations is that when you deliver it, the installation place is going to be built to that same dimension around it. And if you're not modeling it, there's too much risk in there for that dimension that you install into to not be accurate. And so the BIM model is the most important factor. I mean, it's like a marriage between prefab and VDC. And also some more in-depth prefab products would benefit from a laser scan activity. If you've got bathroom pods sitting in a depressed slab, laser scanning that whole area right after, it brings a lot of value, because then you can evaluate if it's set for delivery day for those pods. And if not, you can come in and make a couple of edits to it, you know. Trade partner versus vendor models, you know, I just want to put an emphasis on that briefly, because we're all modeling together on a job. It's trade partners, but everything is progressing together. But vendors will come in and just drop their model in at a certain time. There is a little difference there, and it needs to be coordinated around. Also, you know, big important thing to know or to comment on is that modeling, the sequence of modeling for traditional does not always match up to the sequence of modeling for prefab. And that being, sometimes it takes 2 months to prefabricate something offsite or a whole scope. So now you've added 2 months left of the line, and that could affect your modeling schedule. So it's just something to be aware of, to think of in the back of your head, to make sure, okay, is this modeling schedule aligned with our prefabrication offsite fabrication dates? If I've seen it become an issue in the past with some multi-trade racks, that we had to model that area a couple months in advance so that we had time to fabricate them, to quality check them, to deliver them for the time it needed to be installed. Inspections. The SEO acts as the AHJ in public construction. And for public construction projects, inspections on prefabricated products is done by the architect and engineer of record. Very, very rarely an electrical inspection needs to be done off-site, and SEO will collaborate with the Office of State Fire Marshal to do that. It's a whole different topic. I'm not going to get into it, but just something to note. So on to the example. Let's see how I'm doing on time. I haven't even looked. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you some bits and pieces from some student housing projects that I've seen across state construction across the country, and some examples of how they could all come together for what I view as the most ideal prefab delivery of a dorm. Now, this one that we're talking about is a $85 million, 600-bed dormitory for a North Carolina university. And it's also a design build delivery. So going back to the chart, right? We're going to go into specifics about the what, the who, the how, when we realize it, and what the closeout looks like. And also, don't forget, prefab strategy meeting right at the what. Kick it off right off the bat. But really, it kind of blends in with the what and the who. So the what for student housing, owner issues an RFQ for design build team. RFQ specifies that all design build teams must demonstrate experience with prefabricated construction. And the proposals are evaluated on prefab expertise and past project success and technical qualifications in modular construction, of course, among other things, but that's the prefab integration piece to it. The who, SEO, NCDPS, general contractor, architect, engineer, key trade partners. Really, you're looking at structural and MEP for the most part for this prefab discussion. Prefab suppliers, if any, that need to be a part of this early. It's getting everybody in the room to talk through really what that strategy is. And, that strategy meeting might not have, all the trade partners and prefab suppliers in it at the moment. You kick off initially, but they should be brought in, if not in that meeting, soon after to be a part of that discussion to make sure what's feasible. The how. I hit on it several times. Early prefabrication planning with key trade partners and suppliers to ensure prefab fits, cost, logistics, site constraints. Also, developing the prefab strategy for an optimized outcome of the project delivery. Prefab feasibility analysis. I've said it. I'm going to keep saying it. It's the most important factor to make sure we are doing what's right for the state construction office and the projects we are delivering. And then coordinating with the BIM model, right? To make sure we're avoiding clashes and that what is delivered is going to fit and there's no quality issues, no cost uncertainty created. Also planning crane access for logistics, right? And then SEO conducting factory inspections where necessary. So what products make sense for this job? I'm thinking about a project with Sam Houston State in Texas that we had bathroom pods on it and exterior panels. And man, that thing was incredible. The schedule advantages that were gained by that were drastic. And the outcome was definitely due to prefabrication. Also, there's a project in Arizona State where we are right now delivering a modular electric room for the job, and it's going to pull a lot of technical labor hours off that project, which is just going to help relieve some of the MEP schedule that could turn into a risk, right? And interior wall panels. There's great opportunity on these projects for interior wall panels and assemblies. It doesn't always have to be like a legit full panel, but there's a lot of different ways to prefabricate cold form steel, whether it's kitted deliveries of the walls for assemble with a Howlick extenda machine, or it's a legit full on panel. And even plumbing wall cartridges that go in that interior wall. So we've built the job. We had prefab on it. The dorm room is up. We're finishing it, right? We're in construction. We're realizing our outcome from prefab. What did it really provide to that job? Offsite fabrication was able to begin while site preparation was taking place. The prefab elements were transported directly from the factory to the site, which minimized storage requirements for the job. SEO inspectors worked with the prefab suppliers to approve components at the factory, which helped reduce delays in construction. And also, we had on-site inspections that really helped the prefab integration, make sure that we met structural and safety requirements. So the results were profound for this example. I'm pulling from other projects, right? Ideally, if we did these products without me doing a true analysis on schedule, I would think 3 months could be saved on the schedule, maybe 4. Really, the bathroom pods have we like to call it the second critical path that runs through bathrooms. Remember, I mentioned 17 trades, they can get out of hand pretty quickly, really affect schedule. Exterior wall panels. Which I don't even know if I mentioned that on the last one, but it's definitely a product for this. helps you dry in quicker, which releases all the trades inside the building, which need dry in order to start, right? Um, Electric rooms, mentioned electrical labor, all of that combined affects critical path. In a dorm room, we could, in certain situations, turn the building over early enough to have it provided for another semester. And that is just the speed to market opportunity there is just realized through prefabrication. Also, fewer change orders. I mean, that work is excellent quality done offsite. The emphasis is done on the quality checks that we have in our facility, right? It's delivered according to the BIM model. Like we are really trying to maximize our output from eliminating waste on the project. And change orders, I mean, if we properly integrated the way I said during the how, and we had the kickoff meeting, we did the feasibility analysis, prefab would fit in everywhere. There wouldn't be RFIs from the builders because the trade partners were a part of the conversation. It just flows that much better. The sustainability metrics is something I haven't really hit on, but the waste that's eliminated through prefabrication is astounding. I mean, I think it's like 60% of waste in the landfills is from construction and demolition projects. And then 1/5 of that is gypsum board. I mean, like we can literally use prefabricated elements to cut our boards to size and maximize the utilization of 1 4x8 across all the prefab elements. And then also like there's ways you can roll your studs for an interior wall panel that eliminates the waste altogether. And you're assembling exact size or exact order material into your prefab element. And you're not creating waste. We're eliminating it upstream. We're not just pushing the waste upstream, we're eliminating it upstream. That's the lean manufacturing mentality that I keep talking about. Lean manufacturing is how do we get rid of waste? Waste, all 7 waste across the board. And the sustainability side of it is something that definitely needs to be thought about because the impact is vast. And it's our responsibility not to send just dumpsters upon dumpsters to the landfill if we can avoid it. Also, fewer warranty issues. I mean, the quality aspect, I hit on it. That's just, it's a no-brainer that comes with it. All right, so this slide is not fully encompassing. But these are some leaders that come to mind for me when I think of people who are doing prefab or companies who are doing prefab in North Carolina. And if you're out there and you're doing it and you're not on here, come talk to me, man. I would love to meet you. This is, like I said, this is not, there's definitely a lot that aren't on here that deserve to be on here. And I put this up here because this is not a presentation about DPR and what DPR can do. This is a presentation about our industry and how we all can get better together with prefabrication on our projects. So what's next? You know, the future of prefab and state construction. I mean, I'm here talking to you all, right? That says a lot. Michael hit on it pretty broadly. I mean, he hit it right in the face. Like the impact is needed today for what's coming tomorrow. Like we need to integrate more prefab onto our jobs, smart prefab, you know, not prefab just to prefab, but the better we educate ourselves on how to do that and the right pinch points along a project's life cycle to integrate properly, the easier it'll be for us to actually make sure it happens and happens the way it needs to be without costing extra cost to a job because credits that were due or bad quality because we didn't model it and we tried to I mean, there's just, I could go on and on. I already hit on the sustainability piece. I think that my message was pretty clear. The technology part, I could do a whole presentation on it. It's not the part of today's conversation, but I will just say I guess the hot word of the year, AI. There is some really cool stuff for AI in construction. I mean, architects in here probably familiar with computational design to an extent. Like we're seeing tools that are allowing us to take the model to the machine, and the machine goes to exact size parts that we are assembling, it's coming, and it's whatever you think it is, it's more. It's coming quick, and it's going to be super impressive for how we're able to deliver, and it's going to make this conversation easier next year and the year after that. I'll leave us today with the law of diffusion of innovation chart. You know, this, I'll talk on it briefly about how this is impacted for our industry and where I think we are. But you can look at this chart for your company and where you think you guys are within prefab and where you think you may list within that, right? I think personally, prefabrication and construction is probably sitting in the early majority right now. I mean, it's been around for a while. We've had the trailblazers, the disruptors, the innovators who've just been really, really helping build the way. But we're starting to get more integration. I mean, VDC modeling, that just opens up such an opportunity. And I hit on the AI briefly, which is exponentially more. We're in the early majority, and I would love for all of you to join us there. It's a lot of fun. Like, bring your companies along. Let's do this. And I would love to connect with you all after. I'll be at the mixer after. So, any questions? We have a little time. Yeah. Are you talking about what architects provide? Is that a 350? Yeah. Yeah. So we personally at DPR, we go in and anything that's constituted as a large project, you know, I would say like over 5 million and some under it, we are modeling to LOD 400, if not 450. It really depends on the project manager and what they're driving, but our standard as a company is to go that far. So I can't speak for everyone else. Yeah. We model on top of it. Mm-hmm. And one moment, I actually go on. I'll say it after. You're good. Go ahead. It's a great question. So the 3 months saved is on the construction delivery, traditional versus prefabrication. And prefab, it adds more to the design side, design schedule. You know, the shift is going to go front of the line. But what we're really trying to impact is that labor on site risk. There's so much risk with the labor on site. And we've got some incredible laborers out there, but I could go on for days about the opposite, right? People that I would never allow on my job again just because of my previous experiences with them. The one thing I was going to say though is that there's a misconception of prefab only works on big jobs. It doesn't. I personally evaluate everything we're doing from 3 million up, and I don't do below that just because I don't have time. I had to cut off at some point, but prefab is a great there's a great opportunity on any size project. Sure, some might not really have the opportunity because of the scope, but it's not a size thing. It's like, to my comment of kitted deliveries, like that's prefab. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We personally track deliveries to the facility. If they're procuring the material and installing it there, it's a different mindset for the construction manager and how they're monitoring the material. I mean, if you're building, let's use bathroom pods again as an example. If you're building bathroom pods down at SurePod's facility in Orlando, then you're going to see that work going in place. And that's, I mean, it hasn't arrived yet. So you need to make sure that you're not paying everything. But I mean, paying for the material is definitely an option ahead of time. It really comes down. Yeah. Personally, my experience in the past, you want to take it?
I can take it. So historically, with state construction, we have had a problem paying for material stored offsite. We're presently loosening the screws on that a bit. I'm envisioning the revised language will probably come out in the next month or two. Where it still has to go through the normal processes. If it's fabricated in a shop offsite, we're hoping that the conversations will strike up during pre-construction, and we're kind of taking state construction out of that part of it. We're going to leave it up to the builder, the owner, and the architect to decide if it's appropriate. We're putting certain caps in place for now. When it actually occurs, the architect, if there's no electrical involved, will still have to go and inspect it, make sure that it's complete, proper for the project, identify where it's stored in the warehouse or whatever. And then beyond that, we're kind of taking, like right now, there's language about bonded warehouses. We're taking that out. We're modifying that language, putting an emphasis on insurance and other things to help facilitate what we're talking about today.
Now that insurance piece is definitely something to think about. You have new risk. You're shipping completed product instead of just a truck full of studs, right? Truck full of studs rolls over, they just send another truck full of studs. You have a product that just spent 2 months being fabricated and the whole schedule depends on it delivered right away. It's something you should probably talk to your insurance team about, right? Make sure that you're handling it properly. It's all a hand. There we go. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're doing mock-ups and then we have quality checks across all of them. There's usually a quality checkout list that has the steps that are checked by the foreman, superintendent, whoever it is running the work down in whatever facility. I'm gonna let Michael take that one.
So, we'll talk about inspections in two parts. Let's take electrical out for a minute. If there's no electrical, I think for the most part, our engineers and designers of record are acting as an extension of us as the AHJ. So I think again, during pre-con, we're identifying how we're going to handle this, what's going to be implemented, and we can come up with, ideas about how we can inspect this stuff offsite. If you put electrical in it, it gets a little more complicated. With the SurePods, I think from what I've talked to Connor about, those come out to the site. They're fabricated, but they come out open back, right? So they can conduct the inspections on site, which is probably for the best. If that's not an option, like if there's minimal electrical work, like conduit and a wall panel or something like that, just the conduit, you may be able to do virtual inspections. It can come out tagged. But I would say probably for the electrical side of it, the best course of action would be when you're having the conversations during pre-con, to reach out to state construction, identify, hey, here's what we want to do. Can you work with us? And we'll try to.
You mean after the product was delivered for retrofit work? Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, there's, I guess, different stages of fixing it, whether it's being fixed, you have the design change before it's delivered and you want to fix it in the facility, or you want to fix it 3 years down the line, right? There's definitely flexibility on the front end if you want to fix it in the facility, but you need to think about schedule impact. On the back end, there's a philosophy of design for retrofit within the prefab world. And it's designing to make sure that you have the ability to retrofit in the future. And so that is a practice that a lot of the big companies are doing. I actually heard it for the first time from the owner of Blocks, uh, Chris G something. A very impressive man, but yeah, absolutely. You, yeah, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. So one of my interests personally is like, DPR, we do self-perform work. And we have our prefab facilities, and I like to work with projects that have that requirement. And we could go in and do a multi-trade rack for a hospital and bring in some minority owned businesses who don't know how to prefab, like an electrician, a mechanical contractor, and teach them how to do it. We work through the design with them, and then we are basically doing the rack itself and they're loading it, and then we'll go install it. I've seen that done on the past, and it helps train them up how to become better in the world of prefab. And so that's the example that comes to mind for me.
The specifications will be set up with prefabrication as the model. Um, I would assume that there are, with certain industries, with bathroom pods, I mean, there are several manufacturers. So I don't, I'm sure there may be some where we would run into problems. We could run into problems, but not with all. Um, the law is clear. I mean, if you can advertise if you get three, that's what you're shooting for. If we can't, or if there aren't, there are some leniencies. Mhm. For sure. So again, I mean, design build would probably cater best. I mean, it's what we've been trying, I think that CMR certainly has some options available to it, but design build is definitely best suited for this.
One more. So my request would be to update the the project procurement documents to have more emphasis on prefab integration. And the design integration one is really, it's just having that discussion up front and making sure that we're thinking through the spatial requirements that are needed for the product. The attachment details for a panel, things like that. And the means and methods side of it is really like, give me any design, bid, build, construction document set, and we can find means and methods prefab. Anything in that category is not going to be hindered by the design side. So I think we're out of time, but thank you all. I appreciate you all coming.